All right, let's get right into it. In today's world, everything is connected, right? And because of that, cybersecurity isn't some side project for the IT department anymore. It's a core part of just doing business. So, the whole point of this briefing is to cut through the confusing tech talk and give you some clear, straightforward guidance you can actually use to defend your digital turf. Let's dive in. The fact that we're all so reliant on digital systems has opened up amazing doors, but it's also created a whole new world of threats. This image here kind of says it all. We're all working on this massive digital battlefield. A battlefield with no borders, where the bad guys are always on the attack, and they really don't care who they hit. And look, it's so easy to think, oh, we're too small, or what we do isn't interesting enough to be a target. That is a dangerous way to think. The hard truth is, these threats are out there for everyone, no matter your size or what industry you're in. Nobody gets a pass. The main thing to remember here is that we have to work with the assumption that someone somewhere has us on their radar. So, if you're going to build a solid defense, you have to know who you're defending against, right? It's just like any other conflict. You have to understand your enemy's motivations, what they're capable of, and what they have to work with. That's the only way to get a step ahead. So let's take a look at who these attackers really are. The people we're up against, well, they exist on a whole spectrum of skill. Down at the bottom, you've got your script kiddies. These are basically amateurs, using tools someone else built, just trying to make some noise. A step up from that, you have hacktivists, who are usually driven by some kind of political or social cause. But for most of us in business, the real danger comes from those top two: organized crime groups, and of course, the incredibly well-funded nation-state actors.
And this slide really highlights the threat you're most likely going to face. These aren't just hobbyists in a basement. We're talking about sophisticated criminal organizations. They run cybercrime like a business, plain and simple. They have profit targets, they develop new products like ransomware, all because it makes a ton of money. And all that profit just gets pumped right back into making their attacks even better.
A successful hack is almost never like what you see in the movies. One big, dramatic event. It's actually more like a quiet, sneaky operation that happens in stages. And if we can understand this playbook, this sort of anatomy of an attack, we can start to spot the red flags and shut them down before they get what they came for.
And the playbook almost always starts right here: phishing. It's the attacker's favorite tool because it cleverly sidesteps all the fancy tech and goes right after a person. A really well-written email can make you feel a sense of urgency, or maybe trust, and trick even the most careful person into clicking a bad link or handing over their password. It is, without a doubt, the #1 way attackers get their foot in the door.
So once they're in, the attack usually follows a pretty clear path. First, they do their homework, their reconnaissance, kind of like a burglar casing the house. Then they get that initial access, probably through that phishing email we just talked about. Once they're inside, they set up shop, establish persistence so they're hard to kick out. Then they try to escalate their privileges to get more control. From there, they start moving sideways through the network, hunting for the valuable stuff until, bam, they achieve their goal, whether that's stealing your data or locking everything up with ransomware.
And the damage from a successful attack? Wow, it goes so far beyond just paying a ransom. The real cost can be absolutely crippling. Your entire operation can just grind to a halt. Your reputation, which you've spent years building, can be destroyed overnight. And that, of course, leads to a loss of customer trust that's incredibly hard to earn back. And as if that's not enough, you could be facing some serious legal and regulatory fines on top of it all.
Okay, enough of the doom and gloom. Let's pivot and talk about the solution. How do we actually fight back? Well, it all starts with building our defenses on a really solid foundation of core cybersecurity principles. This is how we stop just reacting to problems and start getting ahead of them.
And the foundation of any good security plan is something called the CIA triad. It's really just 3 main goals. We need confidentiality, which means making sure only the right people can see the data. We need integrity, making sure the data is accurate and hasn't been messed with. And we need availability, which just means our systems are actually working when we need them to. Every single thing we do to defend ourselves should be in service of one of these 3 goals.
This brings us to a really key idea called defense in depth. Basically, it means that no single defense is ever going to be perfect. So instead, we use layers, lots of layers. Think about it like a medieval fortress. You've got the outer wall, that's your network security. You've got guards in the towers, that's your endpoint security on every laptop and phone. You've got locked vaults deep inside for the treasure, that's your data security. And maybe most important, you have the people inside who know not to just open the gate for a stranger, that's your human element. So,
With those principles in mind, what are the most critical, most practical things you can do, like right now? Let's go through the essential toolkit that every single organization should have. This one right here is completely non-negotiable. When the software company finds a security hole, they release an update, a patch, to fix it. Well, attackers are constantly scanning the internet, looking for systems that haven't been patched yet. So running outdated software is literally like leaving your front door wide open and unlocked. Keeping things updated is one of the single best defenses you've got.
I love this analogy because it makes it so clear. A password by itself, that's just a single, simple lock on your door. If an attacker gets that key, they're in. But multi-factor authentication, or MFA, demands a second piece of proof, like a code from an app on your phone. That's like adding a deadbolt and a full-blown security system. Even if they steal your password, they still can't get past that second lock. Turning on MFA is one of the most powerful things you can do to protect your accounts.
When something awful like ransomware happens, your ability to get back on your feet often comes down to one thing and one thing only: your backups. But not all backups are created equal. The gold standard in the industry is a simple little rule that's really easy to remember. And here it is, the 3-2-1 rule. You need to have at least 3 copies of your data. That's the live version plus 2 backups. You should store those copies on 2 different kinds of media. Say, one on an external hard drive and another one in the cloud. And here's the most important part. You have to keep at least one of those copies completely off-site. That way, even if your whole office gets compromised, that off-site backup is safe and sound, ready to restore everything.
We've covered a lot of technology, but let's end on what is maybe the most critical layer of your entire defense. And it's not a piece of hardware, it's not a piece of software, it's your team. This is all about turning your employees from what could be a weakness into your absolute strongest asset. This quote just nails it. Attackers go after people because, honestly, it's often easier than trying to break through technology. But when your team is educated, when they're aware and they're paying attention, they become this amazing human firewall that can spot and stop attacks that technology alone might completely miss.
So how do you actually build that? Well, it's a process. It takes ongoing, engaging training, not some boring presentation once a year. You should run phishing simulations so people can get some safe, hands-on practice. And you absolutely have to create a blame-free culture where people feel safe reporting a mistake or a suspicious email without fearing they'll get in trouble. And all of it has to start at the top, with leaders who are visibly bought in.
So as we wrap this up, I'll just leave you with this one last thought. You can have the best technology in the world. Your software can be patched up to the minute, your data can be perfectly backed up. But at the end of the day, all of that rests on your people. They are your first and your very last line of defense. So the real question you have to ask yourself is, are they ready?